bienvenidos. Welcome to Generacion Latina. And I want to give a big shout out to all of you who've been following us for the last 10 years. It's been a long time we've been around, and as we are growing up as a TV show, we grow up with our audience, and we want to focus on issues that are beginning to matter to us as up-and-coming young Latino professionals, and that is politics. We continue our focus on politics. It's a political year. Obviously, elections are going on at different levels, different states, but the one that we care about here is in Montgomery County. And I've got the honor to introduce to you all a new face for some, a familiar face to many, candidate for County Executive Doug Duncan. Welcome.
Carolina, welcome. It's very nice to be here with you. Thank you very much, and congratulations on 10 years on the air. That's great.
Thank you
That's
very
very
much.
exciting.
Thank you. And one of the things I want to make sure we do is get to know you, because a lot of young Latinos are new to the country. They haven't been around to see you in previous terms. And we want to get to know where you come from, what inspires you. So tell us a little bit about your background, what got you started into politics.
Oh, sure. It's a great story, actually. It's one I'm very proud of. My parents were living in a one-bedroom apartment in Washington, D.C., and decided, well, gee, and had their fourth child. And they said, well, if we have 4 kids, we need to get a house. So they came out to Rockville, bought a house there, and then I was born a year later. And then after me, they had 8 more kids. So I'm one of, one of 13 children.
Wow.
Great family. One that I'm very proud of, and one I'm very proud of growing up with. It was a great experience. And my mother was very interested in politics. So she got involved in the reform movement in Rockville City politics and Montgomery County Democratic politics in the 50s and the 60s. And of the 13 of us, I'm the one who tagged along with her. I mean, I sort of was fascinated by this whole public service idea, the political world. And she always told us that religious service is the highest calling and public service is the second. And once I realized I wasn't going to be a priest, I decided I'd do something in public service and work for county government for a bit, and then ran for City Council of Rockville, was elected there, served 3 terms there, ran for mayor of Rockville, was elected, served 3 terms as mayor, and then I liked being mayor so much because people looked at you and said, you know, what'd you get done? What are you doing for us? There's a real sense of urgency there, and those were part-time jobs in the city of Rockville. So I said I want to do this full-time, so I ran for county executive and was elected, and then elected 3 times total as county executive, and then left that to run for governor. And sorry to say, I was diagnosed with major depression during that race, so I had to pull out and get myself healthy, and I'm back healthy and back ready to get into public service and serving the people of Montgomery County.
That's great, and I appreciate your honesty with that. I mean, that's something that many people can relate to, especially young people. So I was curious, what, you know, you followed kind of your mom's passion, and then you made your own way. What really inspired you about public service?
It's really the sense of giving back to the community. I mean, growing up in Rockville was wonderful. It was a great community, a city that really cares about its residents. And I liked it so much I wanted to raise my own family in Rockville, which I have done. And I first ran for the city council because, you know, I grew up in Rockville. I couldn't afford to buy a house in Rockville. There wasn't enough affordable housing. So that was my sort of campaign theme the first time I ran, and we did a lot of things to help increase affordable housing in the city of Rockville, to help those people who grew up here be able to live in the city, to stay in the city if they wanted to. So that's been a real passion of mine over the years. But you get this great sense of satisfaction, and local government really is the government that's closest to the people. It's not sexy, it's not glamorous, but if your trash isn't picked up, if your street's not plowed when it snows, if your potholes aren't fixed, you notice it, and it has a dramatic impact on your quality of life. So we're the government that provides the service closest to you, and that you notice right away if something is wrong. And when you do good things, it just gives you a great sense of satisfaction. And you know, there are many things that I've done: revitalize Silver Spring, build Strathmore Concert Hall, rebuild Glen Echo, help build the Germantown Town Center, Rockville Town Center. A lot of different things that we've done. But it's the smaller things that I think give you the most satisfaction. And I remember a story when I was in Rockville. of a gentleman who lived in my apartment building. This is when I was first married, and he was in a wheelchair, a motorized wheelchair, and he would take he would go out every day, take the elevator down, go out to the park right next to our apartment complex. Well, he was living with his mother. His mother passed, so he had to move in with his sister, who lived in the same neighborhood, but in a single-family home a couple blocks away, a few blocks away. And I saw him at the one day at somewhere and said, "How, haven't seen you in a while. How's it going?" He said, "Well, my life is not as good because I can't get to the park anymore because there's no curb cut at the crosswalk. I have to take my wheelchair into the street. It's too dangerous." So we put in a curb cut at the stoplight for him so that he could cross the street safely to get to the park. Again, it's a small thing, but for him, it changed his life. I mean, it brought him that joy that he had in his life of being able to go to the park every day and talk to friends there and just have a good time. And then he passed shortly thereafter, but to me, that's sort of what we're there for. We're there to help people make improvements as a government to better their quality of life, to better their living in this county.
Yep. And you bring something up that just takes me to where we are as a generation. We're very our short attention span, right, doesn't really allow for much interest in politics because politics they just seem to go by so slow, right, for any change. But I think local politics gives us a unique opportunity to actually tap into the people that represent us locally that can impact the quality of living, like you mentioned with this gentleman. I think that's something that most people don't quite understand, and we might think of it as well, the people that deal with the taxes or Board of Education or who knows, but it's not really just that. I think it impacts quality of living, especially if we're able to tap into it. If we can have a personal connection with you, I think it makes a difference because you listen,
sure.
right? You know what it's like. You're a citizen here. You're our neighbor in a sense, so.
Well, to me, it's all about service. It's about making the county government work for the people of the county, making sure that the county government delivers the services that people are paying for in taxes that people expect. And I would say that sort of your generation doesn't seem to be interested in politics, but is very interested in service, in community service, of ways to help those around them. And really, getting involved in local government, getting involved in some of the boards, committees, commissions that we have, even running for local office, you have a huge impact in terms of the service that you can provide to the people of your community and making this a better place to live and to work and to raise a family. So I would encourage people to get out, to get involved in campaigns, to get involved in their local government, in their city or county government, and try to find ways to help improve the quality of life. It's a great opportunity for service, great opportunity to learn a lot, and a great opportunity to do a lot of good things.
Absolutely. What is something I'd like to ask my guests often is, what is a defining moment in their life that has made them who they are today? Can you point back to a time or an experience for you?
Well, it really was growing up in Rockville, I think, with my family. And I remember, I was a young child then, but I remember President Kennedy's inauguration. And it was a snowy day. We were sort of running inside, watching the inauguration, and my parents were so proud because finally we had a Catholic elected president of the United States, and they sort of told us, my mother told us, this is an historic moment, and it shows that Catholics really can achieve anything in this country, and it was a huge deal, and I think that helped sort of spur my interest in public service. And in trying to find ways to give back to my community. I would say another sort of defining moment is when I was diagnosed with major depression. I mean, that was something that it was horrible. I described it as my 2 years of living in hell. It was just a horrible, very dark part of my life. And I talk about it a lot because when I pulled out of the race for governor and announced why, the Mental Health Association of Montgomery County told me that within the next week they got about 1,000 calls from people looking for help.
Wow.
So I think more men need to talk about depression to help remove the stigma. I think people need to talk about how treatment works. And I'm living proof of that. So I do, that was a real sort of moment in my life that I think can be used as a valuable lesson for others, that if you're suffering from depression or you know someone suffering from depression, that you can go out and get treatment and get better. You don't have to be miserable. You don't have to sink to the depths of despair. But treatment works, and you should seek it.
Absolutely. And actually, that's something that our audience can see more on resources on generacionlatina.org. If you are struggling with depression, this is something that there is help.
There's
right?
a lot of help out there. A lot of help out there from the county and from your private healthcare provider. And that's what I did. I went and got treatment, got medication, got therapy, and got better.
And look
for
at
myself
you now.
and my family. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. We can bounce back, and I think you're stronger for it.
Yes. Yes.
So absolutely. One of the things I'm curious about is, you've already served for 3 terms. What keeps you coming back?
Well, it's a great county.
You're not sick of it, right?
No, it's a great county. It's a great job, and there's a lot of rewards to it, a lot of satisfaction in getting things done, and I like to solve problems. So earlier when we were wrestling with the problem of Silver Spring, of what to do about downtown Silver Spring, and what a mess it was, I said we're going to fix Silver Spring, and spent a lot of time and effort on that, and now look at what it's become. It is a model of it's a national model of urban redevelopment. So it's been very, very successful, and we turned what was real blight into a vibrant town center for the people of Silver Spring and the people of the region, with AFI and Discovery there and all that. So there are other challenges facing us. So we've done a lot, but there's still a lot more to do. There are other challenges facing us. Our schools are terribly overcrowded. The students coming in the schools have very different needs than they had before. Our economy is in a jobless recovery, that we are not promoting job growth and tax-based growth the way that we need to. Our county government isn't working as well as it needs to. The Silver Spring Transit Center, the fiasco with that, of 2.5 years late, of tens of millions of dollars over budget, and nothing seems to be getting done there. We're getting no answers as to when it's going to open, what it's going to cost, is it going to be safe, what's the plan to fix it. So we've slipped back into this paralysis by analysis mode that the county has been famous for in years past, where we talk about things, we debate things, we study things, but we don't make decisions and fix problems and move on to the next problem. And I think we need to bring that back to the office of county executive. We need stronger leadership to get things done here. We need stronger leadership to get things done in Annapolis in terms of fighting for our interests. And we need a county executive with the right vision for our future.
Absolutely. You mentioned a number of issues, many of those which matter to our Latino youth, and especially education. So I want to bring those back as we come back, but certainly do stay with us. We will continue to discuss some of these things that just matter to us, because, hey, you know what? It's happening in our neighborhood. It's in our school. It has to do with our everyday lives, and we actually have an input and a voice here in the county in local politics. So stay with us. We will be right back. Ya regresamos.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course.
Welcome back to Generacion Latina. We are talking with County Executive candidate Doug Duncan. Certainly interesting to discuss some of the top issues here of concern for the county of Broadway. What I want to discuss here is the issues that matter to young Latinos. So what issues matter to you most, and where do you see Latinos involved in, and where do they play a role in that?
Well, the top issue for me, and always has been, always will be, is education. That is what sets us apart from every other jurisdiction around us, is the emphasis and the support we've put into our county public schools and the quality education that we've been able to deliver because of that support for our public schools. And I think that should be important for everyone in this community, because it really defines who we are. Schools are the lifeblood of our county, And if you have quality schools, if you get quality education in your community, everything else gets better. You get better jobs, you get a better educated workforce, you get a better quality of life, you get safer neighborhoods. Everything gets better as your schools get better. So we've been very fortunate to have a world-class school system right here in the county. Now, the challenges that we face are probably the most I think we've ever had, at least in quite some time, for our schools. And what's happening is that our schools are terribly overcrowded because our current county leaders have not gotten the resources from Annapolis to help with school construction costs, to help add on to schools, to help renovate schools here in the county. And then the other major issue is that the type of student coming into the county is very different. There's a lot more students living in poverty coming into our county schools. There's a lot more students who don't have English as their first language coming in our schools. And what we need to make sure is that every child in this county can get a world-class education. I mean, that's the great thing about Montgomery County. You can, if you apply yourself, you can get the best education in the world right here in this county. Very few places can say that. I want to make sure that we continue to provide this support so that we can continue to say that 10, 20, 30 years from now, particularly with the increasing pressure because of the more kids living in poverty, because of the more kids not speaking English as their first language. You've got to have the resources there to help assist them. And we're not succeeding right now because the achievement gap between different groups in our schools is widening as opposed to closing as it was when I was county executive previously. So we've got to make sure that we've got the resources there, that we don't just sort of have some high school clusters that work well and that others don't. We've got to make sure that every school in this county provides that world-class education, that every child has the opportunity for that. And it is more difficult when particularly when you're in a school with high areas of, or high numbers of kids living in poverty. It's a major challenge because there's a lot of other issues besides just the classroom, and you've got to sort of work with the families and the community to help take care of some of those so that when the kids come to school, they come to learn, and that's all that they need to worry about.
Help us understand how do you work with county government to make things work, to make things happen?
Well, in terms of the schools, we've got an elected school board and we have a school superintendent. And it's really up to them to set the school policy, to say, here's how we're going to close the achievement gap, here's how we're going to fix that. And then once they come up with that plan, then I think it's up to the county council and the county executive to say, okay, we like this, we don't like this, we agree with this, and then we have to go and get the funding to help make it happen. And I think that's very important. And Annapolis plays a key role in that. And again, our current leadership really has let us down in terms of getting the money we need from Annapolis to help fund our schools, which is why we need change at the county executive position. So that's something that's got to be done in partnership with the superintendent, Dr. Starr, and with the county school board and the county council and our delegation. Other ways, in terms of other projects like Silver Spring, revitalizing that, it's the county executive runs the day-to-day operations of the county government. The county council really has the final say. They pass laws, they pass the budget, so they get the final say on an awful lot of things. But in terms of making the government work, it's up to the county executive to do those daily kinds of things to make that happen. And that requires, again, bringing people together with a vision for where we need to go in this county. And I see Montgomery County as a center of excellence. That's my vision for this county, that we should be a center of excellence in everything that we do, our education, our economy, our environment, our transportation network. We've got a lot of work to do there.
Yep.
But everything we do, we should strive to make better every day. And to do that, you need that world-class school system. You need the economy in place to help provide the tax base and the taxes to support, the resources to support the services that we provide. So I think for the Latino community, clearly education is a top priority and has to be, because we need to educate our young people and give them the opportunity to achieve their potential. And then the economy is a major issue as well. We've got to provide opportunities for jobs and job growth in the county, and opportunities not just for a job, but really for a career, to give people options to advance themselves, to move up to start their own business, to do things like that. You know, I've tried to focus on technology growth. I've tried to focus on town center development and redevelopment. But we also need to focus on the innovation economy, on the startup culture here. We need to become a place where people want to come start companies and grow those companies here. And I think that appeals to everybody. I mean, that's particularly the younger generation.
Absolutely.
That's something that other jurisdictions, D.C., Arlington, other places, have leapfrogged Montgomery County in terms of their attractiveness for a startup culture. And that's something we need to get back.
What do you think would be the appeal for, say, a young, 20-something, 30-something young family to want to stay in this county when, you know, I often see a lot of my friends just want to go to Northern Virginia. Maybe it's a little bit cheaper there. What ought to keep us here? What can keep us here when often it's honestly it just comes down to money?
Well, what should keep you here is the opportunity for advancement, the opportunity to achieve your potential, to realize your personal dreams and your personal goals. But you've got to have the economy in place and the job opportunities to make that happen. And right now, we are not offering that to our residents because our job growth has really been very, very slow. Mm-hmm. Fairfax County, District of Columbia, Baltimore County, Anne Arundel County, even Howard County have added more jobs than Montgomery County has since 2007. We used to be the job engine for the state of Maryland. We are no longer that, and it's because economic development has not been a priority these last 8 years. So you need to make economic development a priority, and you need to make sure that you get that critical mass of people starting companies, that creative culture, that creative atmosphere that people want to go to. And then once you do that, as they're part of that, part of growing a company, then you keep them here because of the schools that we have, because of the quality of life that we have. We have a different quality of life than everywhere else around here, except for perhaps Fairfax County. Mm-hmm. But it's also because Fairfax said schools are very important to them, and they're going to invest in their schools as well.
Now, what is at stake, let's say, for a Latino business? We have a community that's very vibrant in terms of entrepreneurship. So how do you plan to work with that segment of the community? I've got friends who are talking about starting their own business, and what should I tell them that would want to stay here in the county and not move elsewhere?
Well, we want to make sure that we've got opportunities and resources to help people who want to start companies, because we want them to do that here and to grow those companies here. And we've had some great success stories. Now not every company is going to succeed, of course not. But we want that activity. We want these startups coming and some succeeding, some will fail. But I think that's part of that startup culture. So if you're in a company that fails, you move on to the next company. You do other things. But right now, we were the leader. When I left office 8 years ago, we were the leader in business incubators. We had 5 business incubators that were set up to help people come and start companies. Right. Since then, they've really been ignored, and now they're shutting them down. So the county is shutting down the life sciences incubator in Shady Grove, throwing out 38 biotech startup companies, and saying we're not in that business anymore. They're going to close the Wheaton incubator in a little bit. That's a problem. When you're closing your co-working space for startup companies and shrinking that amount of space while everybody else is expanding it around this region and around the country, we're heading in the wrong direction. And economically, it's going to hurt us for quite some time. The job growth is going to come from the small businesses here. It's going to come from people starting companies here and growing those companies here. It's really not going to come from moving major corporations from somewhere around the country into Montgomery County, because right now we're losing that. Fairfax and Northern Virginia are beating us every time. Yep. And we've got some real challenges in front of us.
Now, how would you say that, do you envision, let's say, young Latinos to be involved if you were elected? I mean, what role do they have? Are they going to be your problem segment of the community? Because obviously there are problems. We have, gang activity, and the achievement gap means that they're low performing. Many of them are low performing in terms of education, but there's also a young group of people who are very promising, who are getting picked up by the governor's office. One of my friends, younger than me, actually is now working for the governor. He hasn't even graduated college.
Wow.
So I'm curious to see sort of what's your vision?
No, there are tremendous success stories in the Latino community in Montgomery County, in the Washington region. And I think that the diversity in the county is really one of our great strengths.
Sure.
That we're in a global economy now. We have a global community here in Montgomery County. We're able to respond better to the global economy because of the makeup of Montgomery County. We just need to make sure that we are providing the support and the resources to help people, again, achieve their goals in this county, and to work with the different groups in the county and listen to them, listen to what their needs are, and then respond to those needs and find ways to help them. And I really think we need to revamp our economic development department. It is not providing the customer service that it needs to provide. The small business community in the county feels very neglected. Whether you're Latino or not, they feel very neglected. And I think we need to start building faith and trust again in the ability of the county government to get things done, and to reach out to different groups and listen and then respond. You just can't say we're going to talk to you and then do nothing. You've got to respond and make things happen.
What I'm hearing from you is, you're looking to bring a more responsive government, a government that really gets things done. And obviously, you have a record to base yourself off of. You're not just kind of throwing things out in the thin air. So that's helpful and definitely in your favor. If you could just make sort of one final appeal for us Latino youth, because it is a little bit difficult to obviously relate to somebody that doesn't necessarily look like us or speak our language, but yet you care about some of the things that we care about. So what would you tell them?
My father was born in France, came here as a teenager, didn't speak any English. He came here when the Nazis took over France, came here as a teenager, didn't speak English, spent 2 years in high school here, then joined the Marines and served out the rest of World War II in the Pacific. Came back, went to Georgetown University, met my mom, got married, had 13 kids. But he was in a situation where, and he worked for the federal government and then retired from that and became an ESOL teacher in the county schools. And what he did was he really, I think other than his family, the best part of his life was in teaching these young students in the ESOL program in the schools, because he saw himself in so many of these students who left war-torn countries just coming here to make a better life for themselves, and which is what he and his family did. So that's something that we grew up with. We understood that instinctively, that we're part of a global community. That's something my family grew up with. And I think it's why I've been so welcoming to the diversity in the county, so welcoming to others, to immigrants coming here, to others coming here for that better life, because that's my own family history. Yeah. And so my father taught me a lot of very valuable lessons as well. And really, when it comes down to it, we all want the same thing. No matter where we come, we want a good education for our children. We want a good job. We want a safe neighborhood. We want a good quality of life. And so I think that's the focus of, we're going to provide those things that everyone in the county wants. And then you've got to tailor certain things to meet different constituencies, to meet different groups in the county. Yeah. But it's all there.
Thank you very much.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate your time. You're a busy man. So thank you, and continue to stay with us. You can find us on social media as well as generacionlatina.org, where you can find resources, as we talked about, on depression, and also more information about your candidate for county government here, Doug Duncan. Thank you, and we'll see you next week.